Alrighty, Adam, welcome. Thanks for jumping on, man. Look, if you can just give the viewers a bit of an introduction as to obviously who you are and your, I guess, background within the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm Adam O'Brien. I am, I guess, professionally, I'm the founder and CEO of Bitcoin Well. We've been established since 2013. We deployed Alberta and Saskatchewan, two provinces in Canada. We deployed the first 8 Bitcoin ATMs back in 2014. Personally, I'm a husband. I've got three toddlers tearing around the world, which is super fun. And yeah, generally just like pretty easygoing guy that likes to bring financial sovereignty to the masses.
How did you get into Bitcoin? So I understand. So you're the CEO and founder of Bitcoin Well, but how did you sort of get into Bitcoin, I guess, before founding that company?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. I didn't have like the lightning strike and I found Bitcoin. But I do remember reading about it on a blog. And at that point in 2013, it had just hit $100 and it was like an all-time high of $100, kind of big deal. And I went to go try and buy one. And then I couldn't, like, it was very difficult to do. And so ended up finding one like 2.5 weeks later, and then sold it for $110. And I was like, wow, I just made 10%. Like, look at me go. What am I going to do with my $10, right? And then kind of just bought more Bitcoin and eventually kind of gained a little bit of a book of business, and people were kind of calling me looking to buy Bitcoin. I kind of, like, in my little city, became like the guy to call when you want Bitcoin. And then a few months later is when the world's first Bitcoin ATM was deployed in Vancouver, like in my neighboring province, really. And so immediately I bought one of those, deployed Alberta's first Bitcoin ATM a few months later. And here we are. We've got 125 Bitcoin ATMs. I've got a fleet of online services, and it's kind of been like an 8-year rush of figuring out how this world works and growing with Bitcoin. It's been super fun.
Yeah, wow, that's a very interesting story. What sort of made you jump on board the ATM sort of like route within the crypto space? What was the sort of big sort of like pull for you to jump in there?
So at the time, there was like 2 ways to get into Bitcoin. There was build a Bitcoin exchange or buy a Bitcoin ATM, or I guess mining. Um, I'm not technically, like, I don't know how to, I do now a little bit, but like very rudimentary coding. And so, building a Bitcoin exchange was just like incredibly out of reach. Mining seemed like an institutional game that I didn't want to be a part of. And Bitcoin ATMs were just kind of the obvious choice for me. Now, I'm super happy with that route because Bitcoin ATMs, without question, are the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin. There's no safer way, no faster way to acquire Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin ATMs as the onboarding and offboarding ramp into the entire industry. And so, now that we've got, we've got experience, we've got some finances behind us, we're able to build these online services with that kind of mindset and that mantra kind of in mind. So I think it's fantastic. I'm super stoked on Bitcoin ATMs, and obviously I have been since 2013 when I watched the first. I was like, wow, this is the best thing in the world. I can just buy Bitcoin in 8 seconds. Like, it took me 8 weeks to get Bitcoin previously. So yeah, I was super stoked on them.
Yeah, wow. We don't actually have Bitcoin ATMs over here definitely not in Perth. I'm not sure. Australia might have some. I'm not 100% sure.
Come on.
But yeah, man, I've never even seen one. So how does it all work? So do you basically just
Oh.
like go into, like you would to a normal ATM, deposit your fiat currency, and then it basically converts straight to Bitcoin for yourself? Is that basically it?
That's it, man. So the
Yeah,
workflow is
wow.
super simple. There's like 3 things you need to do. You walk up and push buy Bitcoin. You scan your public address, and then you feed fiat into the bill acceptor. And then on the back end, how it works is, so the first thing you do is scan your public address, and that's incredibly important because it tells our servers where you need the Bitcoin to go. We don't even want to even look at your money until we know where we're sending you Bitcoin, non-custodial through and through. Once you put money in, the servers and the ATM kind of chat back and forth. So it's like, got $100, got $150, I got $200, and then push send Bitcoin. The server and the ATM chat. So the server's like, okay, $250 locked and loaded. Boom, send to the public address I just got. 8 seconds or less, you got Bitcoin. So that's kind of like the beauty of it. That's shocking. You guys don't have any Bitcoin ATMs over there. We'll have to, once all this nonsense kind of figures itself out, and I'm allowed to visit the land of kangaroos and sunshine, I'll have to swing by there.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of mentioned it beforehand, but I spent some time in Perth. I spent like 6 months over there, so I'm probably due for a bit of a visit the old golf course and see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. I find it quite interesting. So you mentioned it took you, 8 weeks to buy your first Bitcoin, but with the Bitcoin ATM system, it takes about, roughly 8 seconds. When you first bought Bitcoin, was that through like Mt. Gox or something like that back then? Was there much going on back in the space in 2013?
That was an option. When I first bought Bitcoin, the two options I had, it was kind of just prior to Mt. Gox being like actually available for Canadians. That's not totally true, but the onboarding times were super crazy. So I was forced with like wire money to Russia, which is just like a horrible idea at any point in anyone's life, or meet this guy in a back alley. And like meeting the guy in the back alley seemed like the less sketchy of the of the scenarios I was faced with. But it took us like a long time to coordinate. I was being a little hyperbolic. I don't think it actually took 8 weeks for me to buy my first Bitcoin. Probably in the, the decision process making and the whole bit. But once I decided to actually buy Bitcoin, those were two options I had. And so after the like subpar experience with the guy in the back alley, I was kind of like, you know what? I can probably do that a little bit better. And that's kind of how I became like the guy in the city to call to buy Bitcoin. So like, we'd meet people at Starbucks or McDonald's or something. We did at that point, you guys have had McCafe for a long time, but we haven't had McCafe here. Like back then it was literally just McDonald's. So like, go get a cheeseburger and talk about Bitcoin with people back in the good old days. But that's how it was, man. That's just the way it went.
Yeah, wow. Very interesting times. You obviously started quite early in the Bitcoin scene. You mentioned so Vancouver had the first ATM, which was your sort of like neighboring province, and then you decided to obviously purchase a Bitcoin ATM. Is that exactly the same time as you establishing Bitcoin Well?
Yeah, so Bitcoin Well was previously Bitcoin Solutions. So Bitcoin Solutions started in 2013. We were like doing local sales under that brand. And I remember very specifically in like November of 2013, I had just watched this Bitcoin ATM be unveiled. I was in New York with my then fiance, now my wife. And I was like sitting in my hotel room and she was like, hey, like, we're going to go to a show. Like, what are we going to do? And I was like, no, like, I'm working on this brand. I'm like making the logo. I'm building the website. Like I was just like heads down building what is now Bitcoin Well. Which was like, her and I, she was upset then, but like we laugh about it now. So yeah, like, it was February 24th, 2014 that we deployed the first Bitcoin ATM in Alberta. We had a news crew there, which I thought was, looking back on it, was fantastic. Like we had 3 different news stations come out to like watch. I remember I was like scrambling around the house trying to find a white bed sheet. I was like, I got to cover this thing up and have the big unveiling. And so we kind of went through that whole process with the media. And it was a really fun time. Like, you think back to the things we had to do back then to kind of get Bitcoin out to the masses. It's funny what we take for granted today with with the existing market.
Yeah, wow. Incredibly interesting. Look, you moved from having one ATM in 2014, and now you said you've got 125 ATMs. Is that all through Canada itself, or is that all just Wow.
Yeah, all in Canada. Yeah.
How has that been? Obviously, completely upscaling your business, going from one ATM to 125. What's the process been like there?
It's fun, man. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not easy. Fun and easy aren't always the same thing. Not in my head anyways. I feel like I really, really have a passion for Bitcoin. I believe in what we're doing. And so like the mission there is pretty critical, but I also just love business. Like I really have, I think a bit of a brain and like for business and going through the process of like, the early stages, like when people ask, like, why'd you put a machine in Saskatoon? And it's like, well, I had a cousin in Saskatoon who could help me service it. Like there's no grand strategy behind, the early days. It was just like, grind, eat what you kill, and away we go. And then today, of course, now we've got like a team of almost 50 people, most in technology. And then we've got like, I've got a team of C-suite executives that help me make decisions. We have a board of directors. And so I found that scaling up has been, each different phase has its strengths and each different phase has its fond memories. And then also it's got its, it's not so fond memories, or the like, damn, I wish that wasn't the case kind of idea. So yeah, I'd say like, to answer your question with a bunch of non-answers, I guess, what really changed the game for us was in 2019, we made our first acquisition. So we were in Western Canada and fairly like relevant in Western Canada, but we had nothing over East. And so I kind of spent some time like focusing on like an operations manual and figuring out how to scale the business. This was in 2018. And then in 2019, we had the opportunity to purchase a 10 machine network. And we took that network and quadrupled the revenue in like 9 months after we acquired it.
Wow.
And that was kind of like the first indicator that like, we had the building blocks and now it was time to just, grow. And so that was a great experience to go through. I think that, when I look back on it, it seemed very scary. And like, we were outlaying a bunch of capital. We had to go through the negotiations. Like it was like quite a process. But then having gone through it and looking back, that was a really integral part of the organization. And it was a fun thing to do.
What was your biggest hurdle in upscaling, would you say?
Ooh, good question. For us, probably unique to any other business, was the lack of like support. Like, you think in the early days, like people didn't even know what Bitcoin was, let alone like how to help. So, there was that. And then there was the perception, like back in the day, the perception of like, that's for money launderers and drug dealers. Like, we know that's false now, but back in the day, that was the common like perception. And so finding a bank, finding like an accountant was like, hey, can you do my taxes? And they're like, no, like Bitcoin, I don't get it. It's like, come on, like we're selling a product and taking a profit. Like this can't be that hard. Finding a lawyer like wanted to, even just like calling a store, looking to put a Bitcoin ATM in the store, being like, hey, I want to put a machine in your location. I want to pay you $100 a month or whatever it is. And they're just like, no. It's like, well, how come? It's just like, well, I don't know what Bitcoin is. Click, like I feel like you want to put a vending machine in a store. You don't have to explain what the vending machine does. Everyone knows what it does. You want to put a Bitcoin ATM in the store, your market just shrinks by like 80%. At least back in the day, that was the case. Today is fantastic. Everyone knows what Bitcoin is today. We're super lucky. We don't have to make cold calls to get locations. We have like a list of people that have contacted us and are looking for a machine. We almost are like providing a service rather than cold calling and looking for locations. So I'd say that was the most difficult part, was just the lack of like industry, the lack of like, government support was staggering. We have FinTrack. I'm not sure what the Australian FinTrack is, like the regulating body for money laundering. And for money service businesses is what they're defined as. And I have an email in 2014 reaching out to FinTrack and be like, hey, I'm selling Bitcoin, like regulate me. Like, what do I need to do? What are my rules? And I should dig up the email and post it somewhere because it's great. She literally says, her name was, it was like Rose or something, like it was like a flower. Her name was a flower. I'll never forget it. And she said, as far as we're concerned, you are selling dust. And you cannot apply to be a money service business. Like, we're not regulating you. You are nothing. And it was just like, the email was a lot more professional. Like, she didn't say you are nothing, but she did literally say, as far as we're concerned, you're selling dust. And I just remember getting that email and being like, damn, like, no, I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know there's money laundering laws. I know that like I'm capped on how much I can sell to one customer without identification, yada, yada, yada. I want those rules, like, guide me. and I just got no help whatsoever. So it was really interesting in those early days. It was truly just like figure it out on your own. And I think that was a hurdle at the time, but now has led us through a period of business, like super prosperous business, where, we've got this backbone of like, if one way is blocked, you pivot and go another way. And that's been true through my entire career. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon, for sure.
What an interesting story. I can't wait for you to sort of look back on that and, hopefully you've gained a lot more traction and publicity. Not that you're, not relatively well known as it is at the moment, but, 10, 15 years time, imagine telling that story and saying, yeah, I literally got this email, from someone, basically saying that we're selling dust. I think that would be a fantastic story to tell.
100%, man. I gotta like find the email and like frame it really big, just as a reminder of where we came from, right?
100%.
And that's why it's so funny. Like you see these new companies starting up, and like I love it. Like the space is gathering all this attention, but I feel like there's got to be some appreciation for the grind that the OGs went through to like, to get it to where it is. And not that like I'm the only one in the world that's ever done this. Like there's tons of people that have this same kind of, experience and same story, or in, similar anyways. But yeah, it's really been a lot of fun to like, and now, now there's like people like calling us to work with us. Like it's just such a backwards phenomena. We just got a new office downtown Edmonton, massive space. It's going to house like 200 people. Like we were really ready to scale.
Wow.
And our furniture partner came to the office and set up like this really, really incredible chair demo, which I thought was just funny. And then she's like, "Can I take your picture? We want to announce that we're working with you." And I was like, that's crazy that like 5 years ago, if anyone worked with us, it was like, you can't tell anyone. It's like super on the DL. And now it's like, we want to announce as if it's some kind of prize. Like it's just total 180 in just, a half a decade, in 5 short years. The industry itself has just grown up so fast, and it's so great to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you mentioned the industry itself's changed, quite a bit within the last 5 years, exponentially, you could probably say. What are the major sort of things you've noticed, obviously coming from, 2013 all the way through now to 2021? What's the sort of major things you've noticed that have sort of changed within the industry?
So I think the customer doesn't need convincing. And that's kind of twofold. I think that, at first, so our customer is both businesses who are hosting our ATMs and also the people that use the ATMs. And so the people that use the ATMs have never needed convincing to buy Bitcoin. They're at a Bitcoin ATM. There's only one thing to do: buy Bitcoin. That's been fine. But our hosts, what's Bitcoin? I haven't heard of that, or I don't understand it. I'm not going to do that. So that in and of itself has definitely changed. But I think now too, the general population is just a lot more ready for Bitcoin. And I feel like when I used to explain the benefits of Bitcoin, I used to have to preface it with, Bitcoin is cool for Canada, for Australia, for first world countries, but it's necessary for a third world country. It's necessary for an organization or a country, a citizen that doesn't have access to banking like Canada or Australia or US might have. But now, I haven't been following the Australian economics too closely, but in Canada and in the US specifically, the money printing is out of control. And people are seeing, hey, there's going to be real implications to the amount of inflation going on right now. Where's a safer spot for my money? And I feel like Bitcoin's the obvious answer. And that's clear to a lot of people now. Like Elon Musk and Michael Saylor, like these giant billionaires that make a living by putting capital into places that are safe or innovative are choosing Bitcoin. And I think that the population mindset is like, oh, it's not some Ponzi scheme, pie in the sky pyramid. It's like got a real use case, and it's actually sound money. Like money, as we define it, is different than how we use it. Money as it's defined is simply a place to store your time, right? We all want unlimited money when we're old. So today we trade our time for our money, right? You and I, we go to work, we collect a paycheck, we feed our families, we feed ourselves, we have a roof over our head, we drive a car maybe. But when you're like 90 years old, you don't want to have to work for 15 hours a day to have a roof over your head. So you trade more time today to have you trade that time today to have more time available later. But money and fiat currency as a storage of time is horrible because it becomes less valuable each day that passes. You look at $100 20 years ago, it's not worth much. You and I were probably like close to the same age. When we're $100 is going to be like nothing. It's going to be like, where's the extra $100 for your tea kind of idea. So we know that now. And I think that's become hyper apparent throughout this pandemic and throughout this government printing and government spending that's been, largely out of control.
With that in mind, so, obviously inflation, you mentioned Elon and Michael Saylor also, both buying in. Has some of the major differences for you from, say, the 2017 sort of bull run, which is relatively, famous now within the Bitcoin space, has one of the major differences for you or personally for you witnessing been the adoption via, large organizations like Tesla and like MicroStrategy and that sort of thing?
Yeah. In 2017, I feel like all those guys heard about Bitcoin for the first time, and that was their first intro. And anyone with a brain in their head doesn't just dive headfirst into a concept or a product that they're just hearing about, right? You got to research it. And then the infamous Bitcoin bull run and or bear market to follow is like mathematically the same as the 2013-14 spike and then dip. If you take the 13-14 chart, lay it over the 17-18 chart, they're the same. I think the 21-22 chart is also going to be the same. Just the numbers on the sides are getting bigger. And so what we saw in 2017 was a rush of retail market, the retail masses coming in, FOMOing into an industry they knew nothing about. And we saw zero corporate adoption because they were all kind of on the sidelines just watching. And now we're seeing corporations who have done their research like 4 or 5 years ago. They're kind of like, hey, Mr. Analyst, go brush off the Bitcoin analysis we did in 2017, 2018, dust it off, crack open the seal again. Let's figure out what's going on here. And now we're seeing corporations FOMOing in to the industry. And then the two main differences there, corporations obviously have stronger hands, right? When you're a retail investor, you've invested $1,000, you can't really afford to lose. And that $1,000 dropped to $800, $700, you're getting out, right? You're done. You can't afford to lose that money. You're taking your lumps and you're leaving. Corporations, though, deploy capital with like decades in mind, right? Like when you and I invest $1,000, maybe you're thinking about a decade down the road, but chances are you're like looking at quarterly statements or you're looking at, and I shouldn't lump you into that. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
I mean retail in general.
Yeah.
But when corporations do it, they're really going for like, decades at a time. They have a 3 or a 5 year plan, a 10-year plan. But that coupled with the fact that the majority of these have boards to satisfy. And like board meetings, there's like 5 board meetings a year. So like, if you want to sell Bitcoin, you want to liquidate an asset on your balance sheet in your treasury, you got to wait for a board meeting. You're not going to FOMO out in 30 minutes. So that's kind of point number one with the corps. Point two with the corps is that they're seeing the usability focus. We see PayPal, we see Tesla doing this, like PayPal offering the ability to pay their merchants in Bitcoin or to use your Bitcoin balance to pay merchants is a 180-degree difference from PayPal in 2018 publicly announcing we will never, ever participate in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Like just the differences there are surreal. Even you look at like a year ago, you had the CEO of MasterCard being like, Bitcoin is garbage, we'll never work with it. And now like MasterCard is going to become one of the largest players in the crypto ecosystem. So you look at these big giant corps having to walk back these egregious claims of like Bitcoin is garbage to like deploy billions of dollars into the space is just shocking. Like name another asset in history that has made egotistical Bitcoin or egotistical billionaires running these massive corps walk back what they've said after making a pretty undeniable proclamation. Like you look at like Warren Buffett Goldman Sachs, like these 180-degree shifts in mindset and public statements is just shocking. There's no other asset in history that has ever done that to these like billionaires.
There seems to be one guy we're still missing out on, the old Peter Schiff. Seems to be very, he's cemented in his position on Bitcoin.
Peter Schiff gets far too much attention for being a Bitcoin hater. He's for sure a closet hodler. There's no question in my mind that guy holds so many Bitcoins. He just is getting so much attention from being anti-Bitcoin. He likes the following. He's so funny. You see his son like talking smack at him on Twitter now. So funny, man. It's just such a it's comedy, man. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's no doubt in my mind that like Peter Schiff holds Bitcoin. There's no doubt.
One of the things that we see a lot over here in the media is like different like large organizations electing to pay their employees now in Bitcoin, at least on your side of the world. Doesn't happen here at the moment yet, as far as I'm aware. But it seems to be happening over in your sort of space, or even in the US as well. You know, we've seen Russell Okung convert part of his paycheck, the NFL player, part of his paycheck into Bitcoin. And I believe some roundabout way he gets paid directly in Bitcoin. You see, I think the Dallas Mavericks have recently maybe announced something. Is that sort of relatively common now to sort of see, you know, large organizations sort of paying their employees in Bitcoin?
Wouldn't say it's common yet. We're working right now on some corporate services. So we, in January of this year, just started a Bitcoin savings plan with our team. And what that is our team elects to take a portion of their salary in Bitcoin every 2 weeks. And we match up to a certain percentage of that in place of like pension matching. So we don't do any pension matching. We do Bitcoin matching. Wow. And we have seen a large majority of our team participate in denominating a portion of their pay in Bitcoin well above what they match. I think we had like a plural number of people, so like more than one person, take their entire salary in Bitcoin, which is just amazing. So now we're building out, like, this is great for a Bitcoin company, but what does that look like for like the convenience store company, for the restaurant? If you're a server living on your tips and your minimum wage paycheck, I guess you guys don't have tipping in Australia, but servers in Canada make minimum wage and then live off their tips. And so that minimum wage paycheck, what if half of that went into Bitcoin? What would that do to your financial situation in like 10 years? That's kind of where we're at right now. And we're also working on getting corps to get familiar and comfortable with the ability to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think that's like the corporate side of things is this hidden gem that really no one thought was possible up until this year. And we have like Michael Saylor and Elon to thank for that. You know, Michael Saylor did the exact same thing he's doing with Bitcoin right now with gold in 2000, which is fantastic because look at, you know, what gold's done for the last 20 years. Like, he was right. And Elon just doing what Elon kind of does. The fact that Tesla doesn't sell the coins they take in is nuts. Tesla's margins are good, but they're not good enough to throw away cars. But they believe so strongly in Bitcoin that they are, you know, throwing away that margin for the future, which is fantastic. They've also made more money in 2021 selling or holding Bitcoin than they have selling cars, which is like just beautiful.
Yeah, it's insane. I did see that actually. What an insane sort of like statistic. You're right. We don't actually receive many tips over here. That's not a big part of our culture, but I believe over in Canada and the US, it's quite common. So paying employees in Bitcoin, how does that work? There's obviously some kind of, you know, groundwork and legislation that you guys have to, I guess, abide by. What sort of stuff goes into the back end of that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of one of the things that we have to like actually map out for the other corps. I'm really lucky that we have a CFO that deals with all those difficult tax questions. But how it ends up working out is like here in Canada, when you pay a team member taxes and mandatory withholdings are taken off the top, and then the rest is paid. And how you pay that rest, the net pay, is effectively your choice. You pay them in cash, you pay them in, a check, you pay them in direct deposit, and we've elected to pay in Bitcoin. And so we've had the team members sign off that they want to receive Bitcoin. This is what they've chosen to do. We had the team member give us a public address that they own and control, non-custodial, that they have full control of for us to deposit that pay into, and away we go.
Yeah, wow, very interesting. I can imagine it's obviously going to become more and more popular, I guess, as the process, becomes easier and easier. I find it interesting, you guys. So we have this like scheme, I guess, set up by the government called Superannuation, which is basically you get paid by your employer, and they mandatorily pay money into this superannuation scheme, which is kind of like a retirement fund.
Yeah, we have the same. We call it Canadian Pension Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. I know in the US, I think, is it 401k or something like that? Is that right? Yep.
I think a 401k is optional.
Yep.
Here in Canada, it's mandatory, and you have to pay into it, and the payments that you make pay for the generation that's retiring. So it's quite a flawed system in right now, my generation is paying for what's known as the baby boomers.
Yep.
And there's more baby boomers than there are of us. And so the pension is kind of like a little bit lopsided, which is a little curious to see how they're going to manage that. But yeah, man, I would agree with you. It's a total scam. Like it's just not a good way to balance retirement. Forcing people to do something is just generally not what I'm about. But telling me that the government is the best place to give my money for the future is like definitely not what I'm about. We haven't seen the government do too many good things with money, like in the history of government. So I don't know why we trust them with our pensions, but the world we live in, my man. That's why Bitcoin fixes this, right? That's why it's so important.
I totally agree. I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but we can actually set up a self-managed super fund here. So you basically can manage it yourself. It's got these like a little bit of red tape around it, and it's more so got like a social stigma as to like people believe it's quite difficult to do and quite hard to manage. But I've set one up myself. I'm 28 and I figured it out. It wasn't super difficult, right? So I think that's changing as well. Like with that self-managed super fund, you can actually starting to invest in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, stuff like that. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are starting to kind of look towards that horizon. With going back to Bitcoin, what does your product roadmap look like for, the rest of the year and beyond?
Great question. So we're looking right now at obviously more ATM deployments. We just late last year partnered up with a traditional ATM manufacturer and a traditional ATM deployer. And so we've embedded our software onto a traditional cash ATM to give kind of dual functionality, which has been great. So proving that concept out was a huge roadmap for us this quarter. And now, it's proven it worked flawlessly. And we're going to be excited to be kind of launching more partnerships that way. We're looking at a couple of global acquisitions. So kind of branching out. We've kind of got the single country figured out now. Now it's time to figure out what multi-countries looks like. So that's super exciting. And then we just, late last year, again, we made an acquisition called Rise Wallet. And Rise Wallet is a Bitcoin gift card system. So we're working on some pilots with some distributors. And that's to put the Bitcoin gift card in a host of stores across the country. And those Bitcoin gift cards get purchased and then redeemed into the Rise Wallet app. And we've got big plans for the Rise Wallet app kind of down the road. So for this year, it's just kind of, keep growth, Bitcoin ATMs, global expansion, and then figuring out how to properly use Rise Wallet and get those gift cards into as many hands as possible.
Yeah, what an interesting concept. I hadn't actually thought about that. Obviously, the Bitcoin gift card thing.
Well, what that what that does, like a Bitcoin ATM, sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
No,
A
that's fine.
Bitcoin ATM is like a pretty dedicated, intentional purchase. So our average transaction size is like just over $1,000. And so like no one's walking around a mall and is like, oh, I got this spare $1,000 in my pocket. Better go to the Bitcoin ATM, right? Like doesn't happen. But the Bitcoin gift card purchased at like your local corner store, like at your grocery store, the gas station, is like, hey, I've heard of Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a $25 gift card and just play around with it, figure out how it works. It's a whole new subsect of buyers. It turns on the impulse a little bit and gets more people exposed to the industry. It's just a totally different customer. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And definitely keen on like getting that product out into the wild. So if you know anyone in Australia that wants to, have a Bitcoin gift card in their store, make sure they email us.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned you're looking to expand internationally. Are you able to sort of maybe elaborate a little bit on that, like where you're kind of looking geographically?
Not right now. And the reason we're not is because in conjunction with that, we're also in the process of going public. And so we are poised to become, here's my lawyers talking. We are poised to become the world's first publicly traded Bitcoin ATM company in the world.
Wow.
And what that means is we don't have a date yet, but we're down the path and we've been working on this for about 18 months. And the implications of saying something that we're not going to do is very, very risky when you're a public company. So we can't,
Definitely.
there's a whole host of things. Like the most frustrating part about expanding internationally is the different regulating bodies. A regulator in one country is going to be totally different than one in the other country. Some regulators require a host of employees on the ground in that country. Other regulators are comfortable with using partners like armored car and service partners. And so it's identifying markets that we want to be in. Like Australia is definitely high on our list. No Bitcoin ATMs there, strong Bitcoin community. Homies south of the border need financial sovereignty. We gotta get this moving. And so definitely like figuring out which markets are the path of least resistance to get the biggest return on capital deployed, and then just kind of figuring out kind of where it goes from there. So yeah, unfortunately can't say where, but we are super stoked to take what we've learned in Canada and then roll it out.
Yeah, beautiful. That was going to be one of my questions. Were you planning on moving international? So sorry for treading on some toes there with,
No, you're good, man. I don't mind at all, but my comms team's going to watch this and be like,
cut that part out.
Yeah.
So, obviously you just mentioned you guys are going public. We've seen Canada actually release a Bitcoin ETF recently as well. How has that sort of, played out? Have you sort of followed that scenario and, has it had a positive impact on the industry, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think like being the first guy through the wall, you get the bloodiest. That's just the only way there is to it, right? We're smashing through walls and there's blood that comes with that. So it hasn't been a pain-free process. Having to explain to the regulators, having to explain to the Securities Commission, having to explain to the exchange why we do what we do, how we do what we do, why our financials are the way they are. All of those things are just roadblocks that we have to get over. And then when someone doesn't understand your business and that someone is in the way of doing what you want to do, it's a very frustrating process explaining and re-explaining your business. So yeah, like the Bitcoin ETF was a step in the right direction. It legitimizes the industry to an extent. Being a Bitcoin ATM company is just totally different than a Bitcoin ETF, right? The difference between manufacturing shoes and being like, Dick's Sporting Goods is just so different. The operations are different. The finances are different. The capital requirements are different. The R&D budgets are different. So having to explain that and kind of like people hear Bitcoin and they just assume it's like one small industry, but it's not. There's like a ton of different things that you can do in that Bitcoin industry. And I think that's kind of been the most challenging part for us, is just like telling people how our business reacts and interacts with the world.
Yeah, most definitely. I could understand that would be a bit of a hurdle, especially having to re-explain things, you know, to different people would be quite frustrating.
Yep.
We've seen, you know, recently a bit of a boom in the NFT sort of space. Before that, back in 2017, it seemed to be, you know, the ICO boom. What are your thoughts, you know, on the recent sort of NFT boom? I know you actually sort of took part in, or you actually took part in Logan Paul's, you know, Pokemon box break, and he actually seemed to auction off some of the like clips as NFTs, you know, through there as well. How was that sort of experience for yourself? And I guess where do you sort of see the NFT space going?
Yeah, it was a cool experience, man. I was a little choked that I didn't see him auctioning off the NFT. I would have liked, because I pulled, I'm not sure if anyone that watches this loves Pokemon, but like a Chansey and an Alakazam, and that was pretty dope.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have bought them, but I thought that was pretty cool that like someone now like owns the right to my card pulling, which is pretty funny. I think you're right to liken it to the ICO craze of 2017. Where I think it's different is that there's no promise of return. Like the ICO craze was horrible because it was a bunch of scammers promising returns to investors in the way of an IPO. I mean, it's literally called an initial coin offering instead of an initial public. Like it was made to mimic an initial public offering without a regulator. And I feel like where NFTs differ is that there's no promise of like, you know, we're a business and we're doing businessy things. It's just like straight up, this is something online that you can tell people you own and you can prove that you own, but that anyone can see. And it's kind of like, there's no doubt in my mind the NFT craze cools down. There's also no doubt in my mind that NFTs kind of like stick around. And I think that we have to understand like the difference between NFTs and Bitcoin are like, they're so different, right? The difference between like gas and water, like they're both liquid, and that's kind of where the similarities stop. An NFT is still a centrally issued token. And what that means is at any point in time, the person or group or organization issuing said token can change the rules. And so if you bought the one of one NFT token, and then the issuer is like, damn it, I'm broke and got to pay rent, here's a second one. Guess what? There's two now, and there's like nothing you can do about it. But like that's always existed, right? Like Upper Deck, like, well, who makes cricket cards in wait. What's the Aussie rules football team in Perth?
We have two. There's the West Coast Eagles and the Fremantle Dockers.
The Eagles. Okay, so when I lived in Perth, the Eagles were my roommates' like team of choice. Who makes like the Eagles, you know, football cards? Like there's a manufacturer that makes them, I'm sure.
Yep, definitely.
And at any point in time, that manufacturer can reissue or print the rookie cards, the most famous rookie cards of that year. We just trust that they won't. And that's what gives a rookie card from 15 years ago a ton of scarcity. But like, you know, here it's Upper Deck, and Canada hockey cards are the ones. There's this generational player called Connor McDavid. He's a hockey player. And do you guys know who Wayne Gretzky is? Like if you're a sports fan. So Wayne Gretzky is like the hockey player of all time.
Yeah.
You talk to anyone that knows anything about hockey, they know who Wayne Gretzky is. Connor McDavid is said to be this generation's Wayne Gretzky. He's blowing through points. He's blowing through records. It's not even close. And so his rookie card from 4 years ago is like, you know, gaining some steam because it's rare. He's like the one. But at any time, like Upper Deck, the issuer, the printer of these hockey cards can just reprint them. Like that centrally issued part still exists in the physical world, and it exists in the private world. The difference is just simply, you know, you have provable bragging rights to ownership of that. And right now, that's what an NFT is. And that's, people are paying a lot of money for that. I think that we have the NBA to thank for kind of that initial push into the market. And I think that we'll continue seeing it. You know, a trend that I see like no one under 18 is like questioning an NFT. Like it just makes sense. And
Yeah.
I'm 28, just like you. And I'm kind of like, what? Like they're what? Like it's digital. I could just like copy paste. Like what's going on here? It's just something to look at. Like what's good. But like I'm also just, there's that paradigm at 30 years old where everything everything in the world when you're born is like normal. Everything introduced up to when you turn 30 is like, yeah, I can probably get on board with most of it. And everything introduced after you turn 30 is just like foreign and bad and never gonna work. And like I'm the old man on my porch with a shotgun, don't talk to me. And I feel like, as I get closer to like the shotgun, old man on the porch age, I'm just having a hard time understanding why someone's paying for digital bragging rights. Now, that being said, I did it. Like I participated in the Logan Paul Pokemon thing. That was more for the Pokemon, less for the NFT. I have the NFTs. I don't know what to do with them because you can't really do much with an NFT. But yeah, it's a funny space, man. I'm super intrigued to see where it goes like the next 10 years. But I just cannot stress enough for everyone watching, like an NFT is not sound money. Bitcoin is sound money. Bitcoin is a savings plan. An NFT is like gambling on hockey cards or gambling on Aussie rules football cards. That's like the difference between them.
Yeah, totally. I think the NFT like space and craze at the moment, like you said, will probably eventually cool off. We do definitely have the NBA with NBA Top Shot to thank for pushing that space into the public eye. We saw Beeple recently sold like one of his collections for just an absurd amount of money, close to $70 million, which is just
69 million bucks, man.
incredible.
Crazy.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah, it's super crazy.
it's gonna
I
be.
know
Sorry, you
it's
go.
gonna be very, very interesting to see, and then to see who else. Like, are you guys gonna have like, the AFL start issuing a ton of NFTs of like, it's going to be very curious to see what else. Like, are we going to have news stations? Are we going to start seeing like, the Price is Right start issuing NFTs? I was on the Price is Right like 3 years ago. I'd love the digital bragging rights to like my big fist pump as I get on stage. Like that's super funny. Actually, and as a side note, do you have the Price is Right ever in Australia? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's like a gaming sort of TV show, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the host of it, Drew Carey, he's a pretty popular actor over here in America, and he actually owned a ton of Bitcoin like way back in the day,
Wow.
and lost them all in the Mount Gox
Oh no.
implosion. So like super funny and random kind of tidbit of info, but yeah, man, it's gonna be the NFT space is gonna be so fascinating to see kind of where it ends up. It's gonna be crazy.
Definitely. So with the NFT space, gaining popularity, do you see any other trends emerging within the Bitcoin crypto sort of space at the moment?
Good question. I feel like it's kind of funny. Every few years, we seem to have a new use case for Ethereum. Ethereum seems to be struggling with finding a reason to exist, and I think that these crazes kind of keep it running. I don't think very highly of Ethereum or the Ethereum Foundation. I think they're just generally garbage people and as a garbage product. And so I think that things that want to last, that are built on Bitcoin, that share the sound money, open principle, decentralized properties of Bitcoin, will last. And like big trends, seeing like Lightning Network. I am so bullish on the Lightning Network. It's insane. I think that when we have a network that uses Bitcoin as a settlement layer, that's where we become super usable. That's where the day-to-day adoption kind of really, like right now, it's not feasible to pay for a coffee in Bitcoin or even to pay for like a pair of shoes in Bitcoin. Doesn't make sense. And Lightning Network just totally changes that. But I think that, one thing that we're focused on as an organization is how do we make Bitcoin usable without people knowing they're using Bitcoin? And not to trick them, but just because it's the best way to do it. Like, if I asked you, how do you get on the internet? What would you tell me?
I would just literally say I'd, log into my laptop and I've got Wi-Fi in my house, so it's automatically connected.
like, and you open Chrome, right?
Yep.
Like you just click the Chrome button and the internet's there. You're
Yep.
not thinking about how the Chrome browser talks to the Wi-Fi router, talks to the modem, then talks to the HTTP protocol to then access a certain portion of that protocol that then gives you all of that together makes up the internet. You just say, yeah, I click a button, the internet pops up. Like, what of it? And that's how I think, Bitcoin can be used in the future. People don't even people want to do one thing with money, save it, maybe secondary spend it. You need to be able to show them how to do that without making it super complicated. And that's kind of what we're focused on is how do you incorporate Lightning? How do you incorporate a one-touch buy and sell, onboarding, offboarding ramp of the industry? How do you make Bitcoin so bloody usable that it just makes the most sense to use? Right now, you and I are in Bitcoin. You've been in Bitcoin for a few years, probably. I've been in Bitcoin for a few years. Like when we use Bitcoin, and especially in the early days, it was very much like a struggle. Like you did it because there was a novelty factor. Mass adoption, mass population doesn't come for the novelty. They come because it's the best, right? You think about the reaction to credit cards was, I have checks. Why do I need a credit card? Well, easy, dummy. You just tap the card and go. That's why. It's super simple. We got to make Bitcoin tap the card and go if we want to get that kind of mass adoption. Now, that being said, and I want to contradict myself here a little bit, I don't think the end all be all to Bitcoin's success is the ability to use it at like McDonald's. Gold right now has a $10 trillion market cap, and I can spend gold in 0 places around the world. I cannot walk into anywhere and be like, I have this gold coin. Can I buy some goods? Everyone's like, no, you can't, because we take Australian dollars or Canadian dollars or yen. We don't take gold coins. Please go to the gold shop, trade your gold, and then come back with money. Bitcoin just happens to be possible to trade, makes it very easy to trade, which makes Bitcoin infinitely better than gold. And that will be something that we can do, but I don't think it's the end all be all to Bitcoin's success.
You mentioned the Lightning Network then as well. Would you mind just maybe elaborating to the viewers as to, what that is and what sort of problem that is, trying to sort of solve in the Bitcoin space?
Big time. So a Lightning Network came into circulation in kind of 2018. In 2017, maybe earlier, actually, I should fact check myself, but that's kind of when I heard about it. I started looking into it. In 2017, the Bitcoin blockchain was bogged down. There were so many transactions happening, and the network was incapable of keeping up. I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman at our Bitcoin machine put $100 in and received 30 in Bitcoin because there was a $70 miner fee attached to that transaction. He took a hammer to the machine, totally just like demolished it. That's a true story. He actually proper smashed up the machine. And what that showcased was that Bitcoin for day-to-day transactions doesn't work. Our machine was programmed to send Bitcoin as fast as possible. As a result, needed a high miner fee. If I didn't need that transaction to go through for a day, could have been a few sats, right? Just a few pennies. But I didn't. I needed that transaction to go through immediately. And so we had to pay a high miner fee. What the Lightning Network layer is, it's a layer kind of built above Bitcoin or above or below, however you want to picture it. And it allows you to transact in a way that is instant with a miner fee of very, very little because there are no miners. There's simply a blockchain of nodes. And a node is a computer that receives the blockchain and then broadcasts that to all the other nodes for all the other nodes to confirm that it matches. So imagine you and I are talking right now, or we're texting, and I text you, hey, after the show, I'm going to give you $1 million. And then I delete that message and you're like, hey, Adam, where's my $1 million? I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like, look at this message. And I'm like, I don't have that message. Like, you doctored that, you photoshopped that. What's the deal? But if we did that right now and it's live and everyone can hear it and see it, everyone can agree, no. You know what? Adam said that. We all have consensus that transaction, that verbal communication actually happened. So the Lightning Network kind of has that consensus piece of everyone independently has to agree that transactions still occurred on the Lightning Network. And then when my Lightning wallet, when I want it to go into Bitcoin, I simply transact it into Bitcoin, those Lightning Network coins all get funneled. The transactions go on the chain, on chain, and Bitcoin is the settlement layer. Then I receive the Bitcoin and off I go. So you kind of have to think of it like a secondary network with smaller fees, not intended to be money, but more intended to be transactional. You think about Visa. Visa uses Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollar for settlement. It does not use the Canadian dollar for transactions. What I mean by that is when you use your Visa card at I'm using McDonald's, but I don't know what else is in Perth and Canada. But if you use your Visa card at McDonald's, Visa gives McDonald's a Visa token equivalent to $1 Australian. And that then gets settled daily or every 3 days as an offset to returns. But no money actually changes hands until the two organizations agree to settle. And so the Lightning Network is used in transactions. And then when the recipient of the Lightning chooses to settle, it goes into Bitcoin. So if I'm being honest, like that's kind of my loose interpretation of Lightning. As an organization, like our stance is that Lightning is amazing. It's just very early. We don't offer Lightning on our ATMs. We don't have anything in the roadmap to offer Lightning in the next few months. But Lightning will be a very important part of every Bitcoin business over the next kind of couple of years.
Yeah, thank you very much for explaining that. I think that's going to be an interesting piece for the viewers to sort of listen to and watch. You also mentioned that you aren't a massive fan of Ethereum or the Ethereum Foundation. Do you think Ethereum itself has a place within the industry, or do you just completely, not like it whatsoever?
I think that if Ethereum was built properly, it would have a place. I think that the way that Ethereum is centralized is very, very dangerous. We saw in December of 2020, we saw them roll back 3 blocks, which is just really bad. If you bought Ethereum within those 3 blocks, that transaction no longer exists. That's a catastrophic thing for, a supposedly decentralized kind of coin like Ethereum. I think that the only thing Ethereum did right was have the network and the coin named differently, right? You have Ether that powers the Ethereum network. I think the Ethereum network has a certain place. I don't know why you need Ether. I don't know why the Ethereum network can't just be powered by Bitcoin. I think that they were on the right track. And then the fact that I can even say they is a problem. They were enticed by money and by corporate capital to make it more of a business and less of a project. If I wanted to sue the Ethereum Foundation, I could. If I wanted to sue the founder of Bitcoin, I couldn't. And that's because Bitcoin is an open source, peer-to-peer, decentralized project that is meant to be sound money and not a business. And the founder of Bitcoin did very well, no doubt about it. But he or she or they didn't do well because they had a marketing team and because they had a board and because they were issuing. They did well because they had a concept and released it into the wild. And that's why I love Bitcoin, because it's a construct of a bunch of different people. And Ethereum will forever rest on the shoulders of 1 or 2 decision makers. And that's a problem.
Yeah, totally. The major differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously you've just mentioned them there. Going back to something interesting you just sort of said, Bitcoin sort of has a pseudonymous founder, I guess, but no one obviously knows the identity of. Do you ever foresee, that person either possibly coming out and proving that they are Satoshi, or do you sort of forever see maybe their identity just being, something that's not known?
Yeah, I think they're going to remain anonymous forever. If I invented the most disruptive technology to the most powerful industry in the world, I would certainly want to remain anonymous. And I think that Satoshi Nakamoto the alias that is, I think that they definitely have the same mindset. I don't know if anyone knows who that is. It's such a funny kind of concept, and I think that it will remain a mystery. And I liken it back to like the internet. Like I bet you, on any given day, less than 1% of your viewers can tell you who made the internet. And we use it every day. And if you asked your viewers who invented fiat currency, they'd be like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And no, it doesn't. What's going to be important for Bitcoin is that we have a network, a decentralized network of companies and organizations and people building on the project that is Bitcoin. And I like the fact, just the fact that they've remained anonymous is just like an added punch to the fire. I think it's so beautiful. It's like, this is beyond me. Go. Like, it's just like the most selfless and most beautiful thing. The sacrifice, like, it's just so incredible to forego the clout and the ego and the riches is unthinkable. And I really, really think that the open source aspect to it is just like what gives Bitcoin kind of the most steam.
I totally agree. I think it's fascinating that, the creator of something so disruptive has chosen to remain anonymous. Like you just said, it's incredibly selfless. It just adds to, the mystique around the entire sort of Bitcoin sort of story. Look, we've been going for roughly an hour, Adam. Do you have any, closing thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, one, and it's a philosophical thought. I would challenge your viewers and yourself to look at Bitcoin more like savings than an investment. An investment implies that you have an entry and an exit point. And an exit point is to move on to a better investment. And for, I believe, 8 of the last 10 years, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset on planet Earth. Arguably speaking, there's no better investment. And so I think that I would implore everyone to look at what is sound money, get a concept of what money is outside of a centrally issued token from the government, and look into, what does holding Bitcoin mean for you and for your savings. And, when someone asks me, when's the best time to buy Bitcoin? I say every 2 weeks for the rest of your life. and I mean that. The price doesn't matter anymore. The concept of, this roller coaster ride of volatility doesn't matter anymore. It's just as simple as, I believe Bitcoin will forever outpace inflation. This is the safest spot for my money. And ride into the sunset with your Bitcoin, with your sats, and off we go. So, Ran, super, super fun. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you having me.
No, thank you so much, man. It's been awesome. Such a great chat. I hope the viewers enjoyed as much as I have.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a lot of fun. Always like talking to, like I said, the homies on the southern side of the border. So we'll have to do this again soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.